warriors, it's Sword Prepper here. Winter's coming, the chips hit the fan, and will they take your preps or not? Let's talk about that. So I've been hearing a lot of circling around the prepper community about whether you should be prepared for if the government or whatever said agenda is in control at the moment tries to come after the chips fall and take what you have. Should you be prepared for that? Should you worry? Should that be a part of your prepping plan? Should that be a part of your chips falling plan? And I'll have a few answers for you. But first I want to talk about the ways things could fall. There are a myriad of ways that things could fall, that even now you can read the news and look at what's happening around you and tell, this could happen and this could cause a collapse. Or that could happen, that could cause a collapse. Or, even this over there could happen. Even though that possibility seems a little bit smaller than your average, it still could happen, and that could cause a collapse. These are all things that you should look at and then base your plan from those most likely things. That's the first thing you should do, is whatever your prepping plan is should be based off the most likely thing around you that looks like it might happen. So like in the US, it looks like, well, actually all over the world right now, it looks like we might face some sort of, not even nuclear, but some sort of world war. It looks like we might be facing some world war soon, and that could cause a major disruption. That could cause a major problem. So those are things you should be planning and prepping for. Prepare yourself for that, and do your preps around that sort of thing. Do your preps around if a war should happen, or say if they try to draft you. Do your preps around that. Should you prepare for if they try to come and take your preps? Should you even worry about that? Those are some of the questions I've seen. And my short answer to that is basically yes. Basically, full on yes. I mean, no doubt about it, yes. Because, say if we have a war, you can look this up when it happened in World War II and even World War I. When we have a war, they take people from the parents to fight in the war. They have to come to your home, and you take your children. They take your father if he's in fighting condition, and they take whatever might benefit them in the war. And they'll leave you with some, but they also take what they need. They take what they figure will benefit them in the war. This is common war tactic. This is common war play. So, of course you should be preparing for if they try to take your stuff, if they come and try to move in and take your preps. That's something you should definitely be preparing for, because it will most likely happen if the chips should fall. Now, I've heard people say, no, that's never going to happen. I've heard preppers say it won't happen, that the government won't come for your preps. Don't worry about that. That's not something you should worry about. They won't come for your preps. And as far as the reasons that they give, and good reasons they may be, unfortunately, that's not entirely true. It is true to an extent, but unfortunately, the entirety of it is simply not true. The government will come for your preps. The government will come for whatever they see fit. The government, because you must understand, in an shtf situation, that when the stuff hits the fan, generally we're talking about a war zone. What will lead up to it generally will probably be a war. So you have to take that into consideration. It won't likely be a zombie apocalypse. It won't likely be a alien invasion. It will likely not be anything like that. It will likely be some sort of war against man. That's the most likely situation. If we're talking, so because of that, because the situation will likely be a war, the government is definitely going to come for what you have. They're going to come for whatever can benefit them in the war, and that's what all countries do. Russia and Ukraine, that's what they all do. They go to the citizens, they take the citizens in, they draft the citizens, and they take whatever the citizens had that might benefit them. That's what they do. That's part of the tactic. Perhaps if we were talking about an alien invasion, a lot of the preppers I saw that talked about this talked about SHTF in the sense as if it was an alien invasion, in the sense as if it was a zombie apocalypse. in the sense as if it was, oh, the government having nothing to do with the citizens. And in that aspect, I guess they're correct. In that aspect, the government really wouldn't come for your preps. In the aspect of some outside universal threat, in that situation, the government likely wouldn't come for your preps. But in the situation of the most likely things happening right now, in the situation of Russia and the U.S. going to war, Russia and China ganging up on the U.S. and going to war, look for the government to take your stuff. Plan on it. Plan on the government coming to take your stuff. So, should you prepare for that? Of course. How to prepare for that? Well, first things first, you're gonna need weapons to protect your own. That's the first thing. Now, I'm not saying the first thing you should do is go out and buy weapons. No. The first thing you should do is have the preps. Then, get the stuff to protect the preps. But there's nothing, if you just have weapons and there's nothing to protect, you've already failed because there's nothing to protect. Those are major things. Prep wisely. Prep in order. Have an order that you're gonna use. Food first, commodities first, and then you go on to the weapons. Or you can do it both at the same time. Personally, I would do it at the same time. I would prep both at the same time. Put your money as far as bulk, the bulk of your money. Put the bulk of your money into food. Put your bulk of your money into seeds, into gardening, into raising your own animals. That's where the bulk of your money should be going. Especially if you live out where there's not going to be many people, where there won't be much raiding. Your bulk of your money should be going into animals and that sort of thing. But if you're living in the city, then you trying to raise animals, you trying to grow gardens in the middle of the city. I've said this before, but you're raising animals, growing gardens, prepping up, obviously being a prepper in the middle of a city, you're only making your situation worse. It's not wise to do that. I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. Prep in the middle of a city. Because what you're doing is making yourself a target. People are going to come for you. The average citizen that didn't prepare, you're just going to become Walmart to them. You're just going to become the food bank. They're just going to come and ask. They might ask you for food. They might. But most likely they'll just take what they want. Most likely they'll just come to your home and take whatever they see fit. So it's unwise to try and prepare in the city. It's not a wise idea to prep in the middle of the city. I wish I could get that message across more. I wish more people could hear that, because I don't hear a lot of preppers talking about the dangers of doing that. I don't hear a lot of preppers talking about the dangers of prepping in the city. That's a red flag, and I think a lot of people should be talking about that. A lot of people should be warning the prepper community not to try and prep in the city. It's dangerous. You're making yourself a target. You're pretty much committing suicide. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're committing suicide. So I know people that are preppers, but they're in the middle of a city. They're in the middle of not even a city, but like they're in the middle of civilization. They're in the middle of people that don't believe the same way they do. They don't believe that things could happen. They don't believe that their chips could fall any day. So they're just living their life. But they know that their neighbor is a prepper. They know that their neighbor, the crazy neighbor over there, is stocking up food and talking about the end of the world. They know that. So what's going to happen is the end of the world will happen, and then they'll come for you. They'll say, oh, perhaps he wasn't so crazy. Perhaps that crazy neighbor across the street wasn't so crazy after all. Oh, and they have food. Wasn't that the neighbor that was stocking up all that food? Yeah, they've got chickens over there. They've got cows, or they've got a cow and they've got a few goats. Perhaps we should, perhaps they should share. That's what they'll do, and they'll come to you. They'll come to you with oh, buddy. The same people that were cursing you and calling you crazy will come to you as friendly, trying to be all friendly now, and thank you so much for doing this. We all appreciate you so much. And they'll come and try to take your stuff. The government will do the same thing. The government will do the same thing in any war given shtf. That's what's going to happen. So when you hear preppers talking about, oh, they won't, it's highly likely that they will. And of course, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Look back at what happened in World War II, World War I. Look back at what happened. And don't just take my word for it. But what I see happening is just that. There will be no version of war. There will be no version of a war-stricken world. There will be no version of a World War III where there's bombs, not even nuclear bombs, but just bombs that are going off and destroying cities. Where the government won't come for you what you have. That's just not. It's not in. It's not in reality that would happen. Where they would just leave you alone. Like I said, if you're way out there, if you're out in the woods somewhere and living in the hills and in the boons where nobody is, then it's less likely that they'll come for you. You have a much less likely chance that they'll try and come and take what you've got. The chance of that happening is very little, but still there is a chance. But if you live somewhere where the government will be taking people, where the government will be recruiting, where the government will be coming and taking people to facilities to be safe, you can be sure that you're going to be a target. You can be sure that they will take what you want, what you have. So don't let anybody fool you that you're safe. Don't let anybody fool you that, oh, I don't need to prepare for that. Of course, definitely. Of course you need to prepare for that. That's a very important step in your preps. Prepping against those who will come and try to take what you have. That's one of the important things to do. That's one of the important things of why we do what we do. Preparing for people. Preparing not only for the raiders, not only for the werewolf preppers, but for the government. Because they're not going to sit by and just say, leave them alone. That's not going to happen. So, warriors, prepare. Get ready. The time is coming that you might have to fight. The time is coming that you might have to completely just secede from the government. I'm looking at doing that. That's how bad it is now. I'm definitely looking at ways that I can just completely just get off the grid, just become completely self-sufficient. Only go to Walmart when I feel like going to Walmart. Only go to Walmart when I absolutely, I want to make a special meal today, so I'll go get the ingredients for that. That's what I'm looking at doing. But I want to get to a point where I'm completely self-sufficient. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of hardship. But I believe I can get there easily, as long as I have got the mindset to. So warriors, stay out of the heat, keep prepping. I'll see you in the line of battle.